Good morning and welcome to Ed's World, where it's always morning, even in the afternoon. I am your host, Jay Edgar, and I'm joined today by someone who is definitely going to test the COPPA regulations that they put on YouTube, the R-rated conservative. Welcome over to Ed's World.
How we doing, my friend? Good to see you.
Well, thanks for coming by. I know we had a little bit of an issue the last time that we tried to get you on here because of a little bit of injury. I don't know if you want to talk about that for half a second before we get started here, but it is great to have you.
Yeah, I do apologize to the viewers that I was previously advertised to, but I had it about a week before Thanksgiving. I had an accident where I broke this hand, and this hand got all cut up. As you can see, I still have a huge gash on this one, but long story, and it just made it very difficult to type or operate a stream or even do anything. So I took a couple of weeks off, and I even cut my hair in the process because that was just getting to be too much of a mess.
Yeah, I caught that earlier. That's it does look nice. I'll give it that.
Oh, thank you. Feeling sexy.
Absolutely. Well, we've got an absolutely packed show to get to today. I'm waiting to get the chat loaded up here. I didn't load that up before we started. So let's get that in so we can get everyone in participating. Looks like we got some people watching already, which is always good. All right.
Absolutely.
So, we've got a big show to get to. Let's get to the notes. So, we've got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez got into the news this past week, so we'll talk a bit about that because, of course, she's taking a victory lap because Amazon's coming to New York anyway, but maybe not in the way that we thought it was going to, so we'll talk about that. My Restream chat's going to try and update in the middle of this, so we're going to skip that for right now. 2020 is coming up, and we've got some updates for that, so we'll see what goes on there. Oh, I guess my chat is going to update anyway. Anyway, we can still read through this while we're waiting for that to go. So, 2020 is coming up. We've got some movement there, of course. The impeachment story is popping up and popping out there, and we're seeing some inroads being made there. So, we'll talk about a little bit what happened in the last week over there. We had a couple shootings that we need to address this past week, including one in Pearl Harbor and one in Pensacola, Florida. And finally, the Trump administration is rolling out a new set of proposed rules on food stamps and who qualifies and who doesn't qualify. So we've got some issues there, including people making some backlash to that. So we'll talk a bit about what happened there. It's going to be all of this and more over on Ed's World. Thanks for watching us live on Twitch, DLive, and YouTube, as well as Facebook and Periscope for Twitter. And if you can't catch us live, you can always catch us back on demand over on platforms like BitChute and over on the audio platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. And remember to like and subscribe on everything. And if you're on iTunes, leave us that 5-star rating and a good review. That really helps us move up the charts. Ed's World is proudly partnered with the Freedom Scoop Media Group, and we are not on screen right now, I just realized. There we go. Now we've got everything going here.
All right.
That was
Back in action.
that was my fault here. We were on audio, but we didn't have any video going. So anyway, we are proudly partnered with the Freedom Scoop Media Group, and our merchandise shop is open right now. You can find many cool things in our merchandise shop, like this new T-shirt here. Come on. You can tax my money, but you can't tax my 2 cents in relation to your senator over in Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren, and that just 2 cents that everybody has to pay to keep going there.
She'll figure out a way.
She will find a way.
Don't rule out old Queef J Strongbow.
It's going to be this kind of show.
It's going to be a long night, folks. Strap in.
We've got mugs over here, or if you really want to torture yourself, you can always grab. Let's get this out of here. This generational gap T-shirt over there in our show merch. As always, anytime you're checking out on our Freedom Scoop Media Media Group merchandise shop, you can always hit J Edgar as a promo code and get 15% off. Well, we had a very lengthy introduction out here, so let's make sure we get to know a little bit more about the guest. I know we talked a little bit more about this already with the injury, but let's figure out what's going on in your head. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, first of all, before I begin, I gotta say I love both of those flags behind you. I'm a lifelong Sox fan.
Yeah, that region of the
Obviously,
country
as
will
you
do
can
that
tell
for
by
you.
the accent, I'm from a little bit further north than New York. But anyway, I'm just an average guy, average intelligence, average income, average everything. And I've always had a keen knack to smell bullshit, quite frankly.
Oh,
I've seen it from the education system that I spent 12 years locked inside of, the public education system. I've seen it from the government body politic, the mainstream news media, especially the news, and I even noticed it in Hollywood. I mean, we all know it, folks. It's before anybody even told me what I should be looking for. I knew something wasn't right, and it was like that my whole life. I just always knew something wasn't right. But I mean, at the same time, I had no credibility to talk because I was one of those lazy, entitled liberals, always thinking that their way was the right way to go, and I was fooled by it for way too long. And through time, especially after voting for Obama in '08, by the end of '09, I knew the fix was in and we had all been cheated. And after that, I started considering myself more conservative. But I always used to listen to guys on both sides. Like I would listen to Bill Maher on one end because he was funny, and I would listen to Michael Savage on the other end because same reason. But after a while, I began to notice Savage was right a hell of a lot more than Bill Maher was. So, I mean, I still personally I consider myself a little bit left leaning, but I like to use the conservative term, as you can see from my shirt here.
hmm.
I use the term conservative because I know it pisses off the left because I'm sick and tired of their shit. And I use the R rated part because I say a lot of things that really piss off the right because they automatically assume, oh, this guy is a conservative. He's just going to go along with it. Think again, motherfucker. It doesn't work that way. I am about free thinking, free speech. I attack both sides. I do it equally. And quite frankly, I don't give a fuck. What are they going to do? They're going to ban my channel. I'll make another one. And I'll just keep coming back and I'll keep coming back until everybody knows who I am. And then everybody will at least have an understanding of why I say and do what I do. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Well, I do want to point one thing out here. I know a lot of people say it's a bit, and I think I heard you say on your show that I know you beef it up a little bit for your show and this show here, but for the most part, having lived in Massachusetts myself, that's not really a bit. That's really how they talk to each other out there.
Yeah, we're crude up here, man. We don't care. We don't give a fuck. There's no point. Like, what has all that nice language done for us? And a prime example is last week on one of my shows, somebody came into the chat and said how he didn't like the way I spoke and I sounded very unprofessional.
hmm.
So I try to, even the people who come in and don't like me and tell me why they don't like me, I at least give them their chance to speak, but I will respond to it, and I did. I said to this person, yeah, so let's say I came on here in a more professional manner. What impact is that going to make on people, number one? And number two, you already have 5,000 people wearing $1,000 suits with $100 haircuts, talking in that nice professional manner that suck up millions of dollars of corporate sponsorship. What professional manner have they accorded you personally, the viewer? Other than just telling you what you want to hear and creating zero impact on society and the movement of things itself. What have they done?
Mm.
This goes for both sides. I mean, actually, when you look at the left side of journalism, CNN, MSNBC, they get shit done. They make things happen. What has Fox News made happen? What has One America made happen? One America this past Saturday did a really great expose on Giuliani laying out the entire fraud case with FISA and everything else. Great 3-part documentary. What impact is it going to have on America? It's going to have this.
Exactly.
When you hear a psychopath like me sitting in a chair running my fucking mouth the way I do, you're going to stop and you're going to at least listen for a second. I don't care who the hell you are. And there's your answer.
Well, I've got one last question here that I always ask when we do this show here. You kind of alluded to why you started here, but how did you decide that you were going to start doing alternative media like you do?
Um, Part of it is I've been watching YouTube videos for a long time, and I've actually gotten to meet some of the people that I've been watching for all this time, which is really awesome. And it was actually started. The thing that really put it over the edge for me was last year. My son, he's 9. He wants to be a YouTuber someday, and he
Hmm.
wants to learn how to do all that stuff. He wants to do gaming videos, like he wants to play Minecraft and Fortnite. I mean, it sounds cute for a little kid, but I'm thinking to myself, I had always had thoughts of doing that myself. So I figured, what the hell? Let me give it a shot. I'll at least learn how to do it, and then when he's ready, I'll show him how he can do it. So I started doing it. At first, I was doing like little gaming videos here and there on my PlayStation. It was all through my PlayStation 4. And my actual sitting down live video, first one, was this past January. I just sat down, me at my desk here. You can actually see most of my office in those shots because the camera's all the way on the opposite end of this room right here on my TV.
Hmm.
And I would just sit there for like 3 or 4 hours and argue with trolls and talk politics and just say whatever the hell I felt like saying. And then I noticed people started coming in. I started with one guy watching, and he would argue with me, then two, then 10, then 15. And I'm thinking to myself, this actually, maybe I should give this a shot. So I quit doing it on the PlayStation for like a month or two. I got my credit card. I bought all the shit that I needed, new computer, camera, microphone, everything I needed. And I made my very first thumbnail video on Memorial Day, and I've been doing it ever since. And I've just been growing from there.
Well, you got a great brand. I think you've got a portion of the market corner that I don't think anybody else really has there. So I look forward to seeing more growth out of you and more of these shows to come because we're leading the way. And like I said, we are taking down CNN, MSNBC because nobody wants to watch somebody in a stuffed suit shirt.
Well, more than anything, to take those brands down is becoming more and more of a necessity. They're poisonous. They are toxic brands who have nothing else interested in them except garnering ratings, advertising revenue, and suiting a very specific political agenda. Journalism is not supposed to do that. Journalism is supposed to fight and dissect the agenda, not propagate it. Whoever came up with this idea, whoever even proposed in Congress where it became legal to propagandize the American people, that person should have just, even for proposing that, should have been dragged out and charged with sedition. You don't ever propagandize your own people because when you do that, and we're probably the only nation in the world that propagandizes its own people negatively. We're the only ones that tell ourselves how bad we are. We shame ourselves. You go to North Korea, as much of a monster as that guy is, at least he tells his people North Korea is the greatest country ever created. You set a positive tone. We're the only ones who set a negative. And for all the people that see past the propaganda and know what's really going on, they have to deal with the millions upon millions of sycophants that believe this bullshit. And that's where we have the conundrum. Now, we're trying to battle with these toads and these fucking insects that think that America is the most racist and evil country in the entire world. Our entire Congress and judicial branch, and including many others, along with outside private sector people, bankers, large corporations, they're all running away with our treasury money, negotiating terrible trade deals so they get the majority of the back end of it while the people get nothing. And for those that claim that they oppose it, they have at minimum enabled it. So as far as I'm concerned, there are no innocent parties in here. There are no I feel right now, until they have truly earned their stripes and done something to prove otherwise, they're all the bad guy. All of them. The only one who I don't consider to be the bad guy is Trump, because he was never one of them to begin with. As I said last week on my show, he went just like Reggie Jackson said when he signed with the Yankees in the 70s. I didn't go to New York to become a star. I brought my star with me. And that's what Trump did. He brought his own icon into that seat with him. He made the presidency mean more by being elected president. And in history will eventually show that, I hope, if we can get past the obstacles I speak of now. And I do apologize for going on about this.
No.
But
It's your time.
we're caught in a conundrum. And Trump is the closest we've had to breaking it. And we need to vote for him out of necessity. We need to start boycotting the anything established in this country, like long-standing established papers like the New York Times and Washington Post, television networks like NBC, CBS, CNN, even the cable news as well. Even the newer ones like One America, Newsmax. I don't trust any of them. They take corporate sponsorship. We cannot trust them. We need to stop giving them our ad revenue. We need to stop giving them our time and attention. We need to focus on the people that are actually on the streets, recording this stuff live as you can see it happening. Not they show you a 4-second clip and then spin it and give it a perspective. You actually can watch the whole thing and gain your own perspective. That's journalism. They call us alternative media. We've become the actual media. They're the alternative because it's fictionalized. They don't give you the truth. They give you their brand of truth. And each one of them is a fucking liar. The left side will tell you that Donald Trump is the second coming of Hitler. The right side will tell you that Donald Trump is the second coming of Christ.
Absolutely.
It's probably somewhere in the middle, I would imagine.
Most likely. Well, you want to go on and talk about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez now?
Oh, AOC biscuit. My favorite little Congress twat.
Check in with the live chat here. Doesn't look like I have anything up here so far. So
well, I see Yama Fago's in there.
Oh.
At least he was.
Well, he was at one point here. I had to restart it a couple times just because of the update that it forced me to do. So if you're in the chat now, we are back up and running here. So go ahead and get in and we'll check back in between topics here. So first story on the stack I've got here. I apologize. Amazon has agreed now to lease a space in Hudson Yards, Midtown Manhattan, for about 1,500 employees. It appears to be a fulfillment center, very similar to the one that's in Kenosha right now and the one they're bringing over to Beloit. This deal has come with no tax incentives, but Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is gloating about that because they got the Amazon and they didn't have to fork out $3 billion in cash. So what have you seen on this one so far?
Oh, yes. As I was saying, AOC Biscuit, she is a treasure to the conservative movement. She is absolutely the gift that keeps on giving because she is, other than former Rhode Island Governor Lincoln Chafee, she is the most retarded politician I've ever seen in my entire fucking 38 years of existence. This fucking genius, pardon my language, folks, even though I don't really care, but this genius chased 25,000 jobs, and those were regular jobs. Those were probably most likely going to be steady jobs out of an Amazon world headquarters. She also didn't even take into consideration how they would most likely build their own facility. So you're going to put probably 2,000 or 3,000 construction workers to business. Mm-hmm. You're going to put them to work. Then all the electricians, the plumbing, and all the etc. All construction. And they may not even use the entire space and lease out the rest, which is typically what places like that normally do. If they don't use all their space, they'll lease out little offices and stuff to small businesses. Guys like me, where I can set up a studio in there and yell about how terrible Amazon is, but I digress. No, this imbecile, she decides because bear in mind, folks, she is an economics major from Boston University. And I live in the same state as Boston University, and it really goes to show the quality of education that institution is offering our youth, because it churned out this fucking nematode who doesn't know the difference between a tax incentive and a payoff. She thinks that by giving Amazon a $3 billion tax break over a certain amount of time, we're actually handing them money. And that's how, as an economics major, she's trying to explain that to the public. She is not only so full of shit you can smell it through the TV screen, she is an arrogant little puke who actually had the nerve to sit on a couch with her stumpy little legs stretched out on this ugly table and talking about how she's waiting for all the haters to come after her for that.
That's the big point that I want to get to in this story here because, yeah, she thinks that she made a win out of this. I do want to cite something here. I want it on record for the story that we have at the end of the stack here. BU, that's a private school, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Keep that in mind when we go to the last story that's on the stack here. Anyway, so yeah, no. She thinks that these 1,500 jobs, and from what I understand, Hudson Yards is a pretty upscale area, middle to upscale too. So, I mean, you're getting jobs in here for people who already had jobs. Of course, the argument came up that these other jobs were going to gentrify one of the lower income areas of New York, which I don't understand what the problem is with that, but apparently there's
God
some
forbid
sort of
they get ahead on anything. Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Amazon is going to, or the landlords are going to raise the rent because they want the people from Amazon who can pay the rent, and everyone else is going to have no place else to go. There are 7 million jobs all around the country. There's no law.
She again, she is another child with no life experience. She has no clue. And every time she opens her mouth, she proves it. And I'm going to sit here right now. I'll tell you all, when I was in school, I was a terrible student because I didn't give a shit. I knew I was being fed a whole bunch of lies and crap. The only things I really paid attention to were math and history because those are two things you can actually learn from. The whole like sitting there and reading Shakespeare and Lord of the Flies, that's horse shit. That's just a fucking that's where they start needling you with the fucking liberal propaganda. History too a little bit, but not as much because you'll at least get the general facts and come up with your own mind because you got to do further research. But I digress. She is somebody who had the balls to claim that she lives in the Bronx. Meanwhile, she grew up in Westchester, which is a very, very nice area to live in, very nice suburban area. Mm-hmm. She did okay. And when she was in school, when she was in high school, I saw her yearbook picture. Her name was Sandy Ocasio.
Yeah, you said that in the agenda.
Fine. I got no issue with that. But the instant fucking junk anger from the young turds decided to recruit her to run into politics like it's a fucking reality show. All of a sudden now her ethnicity is like almost a supremacist type meaning. She is now Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And you can't fuck that shit up. And even people that tried to call her out on her original name, she got all pissed off at them and offended. Again, this is why I equate politics to pro wrestling. Fake names, fake backstories, fake storylines, predetermined outcomes. It's all the same fucking thing.
Well, and that's the thing, too. I mean, her name tag in Congress, I've seen her interview people numerous times. It says Miss Ocasio-Cortez, which even on a Latin name, which is usually hyphenated, it would have normally just said Miss Cortez for anything of that. So, yeah, the Ocasio part, that is something that she is leaning on hard.
It's pretentious and cunty is all it is. It's just really all it is, man. I've been saying it all this time. This whole liberal leftist movement in this country is nothing more glorified pissing contest to see who can out-liberal douche the other. That's really all it's about. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at the fact that, what's her name there? Alicia Keys is trying to transition her 4-year-old kid.
Oh, Jesus.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, Jesus.
When I was 4 years old, I wanted to be Battle Cat from fucking He-Man. How am I going to transition? Is that a fucking something that could even happen?
Well, nowadays it probably could. Some psychiatrists will diagnose it.
Yeah, I mean, whatever happened to, like, I think these idiot liberal parents who have no idea what the real world take what their children, either they take what their kids say too seriously, or it's just a means for them to get attention and stay in the newspaper and keep themselves relevant. So those fucking records might still keep selling off the shelves. Although Alicia Keys, she hasn't come out with anything in several years, and she's just another singer, as far as I'm concerned.
I couldn't even think of who she was to begin with. I'm trying to think, and I know the name. I just cannot attach any song to her right now.
Yeah, she's one of them that sings how much she loves her man and all that shit. Meanwhile, she hates guys. We all know that.
That's pretty standard for the course. I do want to take a look at some of the numbers here that went along with this. Now, anybody who pays attention to Tim Pool's channel knows that he's brought up continually the idea that all the taxes that were going to get paid by the employees outside of the tax incentive rather that would have gone to Amazon would have more than covered the incentive in the first place. But this was all taxation that was going to go into the crumbling mass transit system because the subway, from what I understand, and thank God I've never been on it, is shit.
It's haunted.
It's haunted, yeah. It's got a river of slime running under it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Did we just age ourselves with that?
probably. But you know what? It literally does. The whole thing is a river of slime. It's gross. It's disgusting. Like, you can't. I've known people that lived in New York. You can't step into the subway without smelling shit and piss.
Oh yeah, it's a public bathroom for everybody else. Futurama even said that when they were going through the New York history exhibit, and everybody asked him what it was. They were in the subway. He says, "Oh, this is a public toilet. No, it's a mobile apartment where you live rent free." That's what the subway is. But I mean, the tracks are crumbling, the tunnels are going to shit, and all of this tax was supposed to go and pay for that. Now, they are going to get some of the tax money, obviously, because they're going to be employing 1,500 more people, but I understand this is going to be a leased building that's already there. So, like you had said, the construction is not going to be a factor in any of this, and this is only going to be 6% of the initial jobs, and they're probably not going to pay the same as the second CEO, his administrative staff, the programmers that were going to be there. I mean, there were a lot of high-paying jobs that were coming to this.
Yeah, they tried to. This is why I say she is completely brainless. She has no sight of the big picture. Because with those 25,000 people working, all 25,000 have to file tax returns. So you're going to get a little end out of them too. So whatever break you gave to Amazon, you're going to make it up on the back end from all the employees. And not to mention all the extra money that they're going to be making and putting back into the economy. See, she knows nothing about economics. I barely finished high school. I was a dope. And I have more common sense than her. The problem is she didn't work as a bartender long enough.
Yeah, that's a good point.
In Fantasyland, aka New York City. Why don't you go to a place like small town USA? Go out in the middle of fucking a little town in Ohio where finding a job is impossible. And you got no choice but to go on the system. She ever lived on the system out of necessity? I highly doubt it because her family actually had money. She tries to make it like they were poor and struggled and lived in a house with no door and windows or floor. Bullshit. I've seen the pictures of her house. It's not fancy and it's not expensive, but you know what? You grew up a fairly comfortable middle class. Stop running away from it. The middle class is what built this country, people like your family. And if they want to vote and lean leftist, I got no problem with that. But you sitting there and just blatantly taking your economics degree and publicly wiping your ass with it in front of all of us, when even dummies like me can figure out the scam. Whoever votes this fucking Twidget in next election should just go home and commit suicide because they've already done that for for their district in New York if she wins.
Well, that's an interesting idea too, because I know her district. She's pissed off everybody in her district. Once the census is up, I feel like there might be a chance for the state of New York to actually close that district completely, and then she wouldn't have an office anymore. But I mean, would another district pick her up at this point?
Yeah, you know what? I think she needs to spread out and diversify the country. She needs to move to Kentucky.
Yeah.
She should move down to Kentucky. She can run down there in 2020. And in the event she doesn't win, like especially if she goes now, even if she doesn't win in 2020, she'll still at least have plenty of time and space to train and register for the Derby in 2021.
Well, I know that she was planning on primarying Chuck Schumer this next time through when he's up. So moving up from the House into the Senate then.
Yeah, that's going to happen. Oh, you know something? I would actually enjoy watching her sit inside of a Republican Senate. They will shred her. She will run out of those chambers crying like a 14-year-old girl. You know it. Well, you could see it in her face. She never grew up. Like, time stood still for her after the age of 16. She's still a fucking vulnerable little girl.
She can use an Instant Pot.
There's no fucking boom to her voice. At least Kamala, for all her, the human mattress, for all of her fucking state, at least there's some boom to her. She's got thick skin, and she has had a lot of crap hurled at her. I got to admit that, and she at least knows how to take it compared to this indignant dweeby little child.
And Kamala too. I mean, she's got some authority to her voice, and I mean, she's composed. When
Right.
you listen to Cortez when she does her Instagram live video, it's like every sentence that she says has an invisible question mark at the end of it.
Yes. like this. I've always said that when people talk like this, I want to slap them in the fucking head. Christ, I hate that. I hate that. Even when I was in school, there were so many kids that used to get up and have to give their presentations in front of the class. They would either do it like that, or it'd be like, it would be like, start here, then go up, and then come down. It's like, just talk. Be your fucking self. Don't act like you're reading a script. Especially you listen to her. She sounds like either A, she's reading a script, or she's just making it up as she goes along. One or the other. Because one way you can hear it and see it in her face. She has no clue what she's doing or talking about. She is a deer in the headlights. And the only reason why she got where she got is because Junk Anger seems to think she's a little bit pretty. Personally, I think she's a 6 to a 6.5 at best. Plain Jane.
Yeah.
So if they tried to run her on looks, I mean, I'd rather bang Kamala. Shit. At least Kamala knows what the fuck she's doing. But that's another show for another time, folks. But actually, we got Yamafago is in the chat, and he says he does a really good AOC impression. Unless that is a female, which I'm not sure.
No, that's John from the Generational Gap.
Oh, okay.
Who still has his beard, by the way.
All right. I always wondered.
All right, well, let's check in with the chat here before we move on. Before you completely blow up on my screen.
Yeah, I know. Dude, you know what? Tonight's probably going to be our last night to party on YouTube.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, you ever see the movie Slapshot?
No.
You got to see that movie. They went out in style. It was their last season. The franchise was closing. They gave their last fuck, so they brought in the Hanson brothers, who are an absolute disgrace to the game, and just wrecked everything. That's what we got to do.
Well, let's check in with the live.
If they're going to take it away from us, let's burn it down first.
Let's check in with the live chat here to see what we got going on here. AOC Biscuit got Jake from Freedom Scoop, my partner over there. John is still here. April Hart, that friggin' nematode.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the more quotable shows, I think. She has no clue. Jake from Freedom Scoop, the subway is literally a dirty hole. Yeah, that's about accurate.
So is AOC.
John, as you said, does a pretty good AOC impression. Brandon Sullivan is in here. What's up, Jay? Good to see you, RRC. All right.
Hello, Brandon.
Let's talk 2020.
All right. 2020 is, unless the Democrats, they either nominate somebody so huge that even Trump couldn't beat them, I really don't see who that could be. It's not going to be Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. She's a 2-time loser.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Biden's a 3-time loser.
Yeah, Biden's a 3-time loser. Kamala, she's not even a has-been. She's a never was. I mean, you got Butt Judge, whoever the fuck he is, and the other guy, Swollen Walls.
No, he's out. He's out now.
Well.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what his fucking name is. And then there was the other lady, that hippie cat lady.
Marianne Williamson.
That's her, yeah. Who thinks that, life crystals are a human right.
Well,
and who else do they have? The only shot that they're going to have is they had either better talk Oprah into it. Oprah's the only fucking one that has a shot to beat Trump.
I don't think Oprah could do it, and I don't think they would vote for her because she's self-made.
It's too late now. But
yeah, it's too late. But I mean, she's self-made.
If she would have announced it over the summertime, her campaign would be monstrous right now. Bernie would be out. Uncle Sniff and Diddle would be out, Joe Biden. Hillary Clinton, people wouldn't even remember her name anymore. Oprah is another icon. She is another symbol of American success who leans the other way politically. She's the only credible candidate to challenge him. Because these people are just career politicians. Mm-hmm. That's not a skill. I sit here and I say dirty words and I tell jokes. That's not a skill. It's just what I do. I wouldn't call it as, like, they shouldn't be able to build a legacy on just existing in politics. Like Joe Biden, he how long has he been like senator or alderman or dog catcher or school board or whatever the fuck it is he's been on? How many years? 50 years of his life? Has he ever had a real job when Congress isn't in session? And if anybody says he's a lawyer, then the answer is absolutely not.
Well, let's get down through the stack here and see what we've got going on here on the show notes. So first thing, because we talked right at the end of the AOC story, is it's a good thing that Kamala is on the top of this story because Kamala Harris has actually left the race at this point. She came through last week and said that she is out of money and she has to suspend her campaign. And, of course, she left all of this saying that she'll see Trump at his trial.
Well, Kamala needs 270 in the electorate. That's a real big gangbang for her. I don't think she's up for it.
Well, the thing with Kamala, I mean, she had her problems, and I've talked about them at linked on this channel, but with her leaving the race and where everybody's postured right now for the next debate coming up, somebody pointed out the fact that everybody who has qualified for the next debate is too white, so our Democrat Party is just too white for everybody anymore. And it's apparently a racist Republican thing.
Oh,
even though none of us vote in the Democrat primary, but still.
Well, then you know what? The leftist voters have nobody to blame except themselves because they support these people of color. And there's a reason why you didn't support them, because they sucked. They gave you nothing. I mean, look at even the other ones. Cory Booker. Let's start with him. Assaulticus. Mm-hmm. What has he done? What has he given you? What platform is he running on?
I think he's running on the William Shatner overacting platform.
Yeah, he is. He's worse than me, that bastard. And then let's move on to another hopeless there, Beto. He didn't last too long now, did he?
Well, no, he started.
Hell yeah, we're going to take your AR-15. Yeah, he is going to take your AR-15 and he's going to shoot himself in the fucking mouth with it, which is exactly what he did when he said that. Rightfully so. Bye-bye. Bye, Felicia. And then, I mean, the front runners left. I mean, you got the mad scientist where if you elect me president, no one will ever be a millionaire or a billionaire ever again, and I will see to that, and I will take over everything because I will be the president, and everything will just be a grand utopia. That's his entire platform right there. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden, vote for me so I can grope your wife. That's his fucking platform. And I can get my kid a job at your company so we can use it to launder money.
I think he's done. I got a video that I think might have damned his campaign at the end of it, a couple stories down. But
you could put together a 2-hour documentary damning himself, man. Just clips of Biden being Biden. Like, he is so openly flagrant about the fact that he is a serial pedophile. It just makes you it makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Yeah. Just like the hair on his legs standing up when he talks about how little kids like rubbing on it.
Yeah, I have that video in the stack.
Jesus Christ. Video. I mean, even if like I had a fetish for like wearing women's panties or something, and I'm over there running for fucking public office, I'd at least shut my fucking mouth about it. I don't, by the way. Just a hypothetical.
Well, then there's Yang, who's another one who's not white, but I think he finished out his campaign here. I got a video here. Give me just a second. We'll get that loaded up.
You know something? I have very little bad to say about Yang.
Yeah.
Here's why. I disagree with a lot of what he says, but I'll give this guy credit where he actually laid out a logical and pragmatic program on how he wanted to do things. Mm-hmm. He's the only fucking one who did. The only one out of the 238 people that were running for the Democrat nomination. He's the only one that put forward an actual, not in detail, just a basic platform of what he wanted to run on.
Yes.
And the mainstream media, for that reason, because he sounded viable and intelligent, they immediately had to ignore him. And it's even been proven with the Project Veritas leaks that guys like Yang are just thrown off to the side. Nobody gives a shit about them.
Yeah, but then he also does stuff like this.
As a full-service presidential candidate. Yeah.
Let me have a look. See
Yeah, look at this. We know you're ready to opposite style. The office opening is complete.
Who's next? Get in here.
And then, yeah, his campaign manager decided that he needed to try and pull him away at some point because of that, too. So, that, I don't think you come back from that.
Yeah, here's also another thing. He's trying to go the Trump route. He's trying to humanize himself. But here's the deal. Trump is able to humanize himself because he doesn't lie in the least about who and what he is.
Right.
He knows he's this. He knows it. He doesn't lie about it. He doesn't try to humble himself about it, but he also doesn't lord it over the common man. He lords it over the other rich people because other rich people don't like Trump and have never liked Trump. And that's why you see the type of the hostility that you see now, because now that he's president, they have free reign to go after him all they want, and there's very little legal recourse he has to sue them for it.
Absolutely.
And Trump knew it too, and I think more than anything, he's having a deal. Because whether you're on the right or the left, you can call it Trump's genius, or you can call it Trump's stupidity, that he is exposing all the systematic corruption put forward by the entire government establishment that we have experienced for God knows how long. We haven't even gotten into how long it's been going on. We just know what's going on.
Well, interesting you bring up Trump and how he got elected here, because Elizabeth Warren came out with a statement this past week that she is going to be the last president ever elected by the Electoral College. And in her first term, she's going to get rid of that entirely, which, because that is an Article 2, that means that she would need to pass that through both chambers of Congress, get it to her desk, get it signed, and then get it to pass 38 state houses, two-thirds. Two-thirds of the country has to agree with that, so I don't see that happening.
Yeah, that's a constitutional amendment. Mm-hmm. That, she has a better chance of actually becoming a member of the Cherokee Nation. Seriously, because number one, if Hillary had won through the electorate, it would be an institution of absolute integrity and should never be touched.
Yeah.
But it's because the other guy won. This is all it is sour grapes. And for her saying that, she just vetoed herself too. She put the gun in there, ba-boom, bye-bye. You're trying to tear down our fundamental structure, our Second Amendment. Beto goes for the Second Amendment. She tries to go for the electorate. These are foundations that this country is built on that nobody is willing to give up. There's even leftists out there that aren't willing to give those principles up, because that's what makes us us. And to remove the electorate would be an absolute disaster for the entire country, because New York and California would decide every presidential election until the end of time, or until those two states get nuked and the vote is spread out throughout the rest of the country. That's why the electorate even exists in the first place, because big monster states like that aren't going to have all the say, and then little places like Rhode Island and fucking like Idaho, which only has so many people, and it's a large land state, but a small population. Why should they get fucked in the ass because that's what California wants? Fuck California. And if you go walk through their state right now, oh yeah, they seem to have a real good fucking eye on what's best for their fucking community. Watch how many piles of shit you step in while you're there.
Well, one of the things that she said when she was coming up with this was, call me old-fashioned, but I think whoever gets the most votes should win. However, right from the beginning of the Constitution, right from the time it was penned, that was the way that is the old-fashioned way, is that we get elected by states rather than by the people directly. So I don't know what was old-fashioned about that. It seems like a pretty radical New Age idea, but I mean, are we going
Yeah.
old-fashioned Greek or what? What are we doing here?
See, again, the media tries to convince people that the Electoral College is this corrupt institution that just because Trump got elected by the electorate, that's why now it's all of a sudden it's a corrupt institution. For those of you out there unfamiliar, the reason why it exists because smaller states, like I had mentioned, ones with populations of like 800,000 or a million, aren't subject to every decision made by a state with the population of 40 million. That's completely off balanced. The electorate was put into place where obviously the bigger states would get more electoral votes. It breaks down the votes according to state. The electors, and they had to make sure earlier this year that they did this. They fucking came out and said that the electors are not legally obligated to go with the candidate who wins the popular vote within that state. Trump could win Florida by a landslide. He could win the state by 20%, and the electors could still go to the other candidate.
Yeah, faithless electors. We're having that now, and we're having that discussion with the Interstate Compact, which is completely illegal. But they're up to 200 votes right now on the Interstate Compact. Did you know that?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, somebody in a private Discord chat that I participate in brought that up, and I actually looked into it. Yeah, if it can stay constitutional through interstate commerce, then yeah, they're up to 200 votes.
Jesus.
So that's something scary to think about.
Yeah, times they are changing, folks.
Well, in what wasn't the worst gaffe of Biden's campaign this week, he may have put the gun in his mouth and shut up his campaign here at a town hall in Iowa. This happened. Let's take a look at what we have going on here.
What did he do? Did he pick up a baby and lick it?
No, he actually yelled. Somebody challenged him on his son.
Oh, yeah. You call that guy fat and told him he should go vote for Trump or some shit like that?
Well, he challenged him to a push-up contest. Let's have a look at what that looked like.
Oh, how unliberal of you there, Sniffin' Diddle.
That's your son over there. Get a job and work for a gas company, but he had no experience with gas, did nothing. In order to get access to the public, to the president.
Unreal.
You're selling access to the president just like he is. So
You're a damn liar, man. That's not true. And no one has ever said that? No one has proved that?
I see
No.
it on the TV.
You see it on the TV. No, I know you do. And by the way, that's why I'm not sedentary. I get up and no, let him go. Let him go. Look, the reason I'm running is because I've been around a long time and I know more than most people know. And I can get things done. That's why I'm running. And you want to check my shape line, let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take the repeat test.
He's demented.
Yeah.
Number two.
He is
No one
demented.
has said my son has done anything wrong, and I did not on any occasion. And no one has ever said it. Not
I
one.
didn't say you were doing anything wrong.
You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack.
That's what I hear on the,
It would have been nice if Joe had a couple of pairs of boxing gloves in the back of his car. Yeah, come on, let's go. What a crock of shit. Like, basically, it's like I'm better than you because I'm in better shape than you. Like,
Look, here's the deal.
isn't that so, like, unliberal of him?
Yeah.
You know, fat shaming? Fucking hypocrites.
Yeah, so I mean that's not even the worst thing that he did this week, which is amazing out of this. But yeah, to come out to somebody who's come out to listen to you because he wants to vote for you and just come out and say you're a damn liar. How does that fix anything at all?
It fixes a lot for us, that's for sure. I can tell you that because they have nothing. There's nothing that he can say. He knows he is seriously goat fucked right now. If Trump really has the balls to go all the way with this, and I mean, obviously Hunter Biden, he's going to walk away because he's just a dumb kid who did what he was supposed to do. Unless they can prove he was directly involved with a crime being committed, he's going to walk away. But Joe Biden, we have him admitting to what he did on tape, like, and he bragged about it. publicly.
Well,
I don't know, man.
well, he's got a new bus for his tour now to go out through America here, as we can see on the screen here. The No Malarkey bus. Just proving how old he actually is, apparently. I mean, he's pre-boomer at this point, is he not? I don't think he's young enough to be a baby boomer. I think he's golden generation.
Dude, I don't think he's young. I don't think he's young enough to be a Confederate soldier. Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, how? I'm wondering at night, do they like put him in a formaldehyde jar so he stays preserved and doesn't fall apart on the stage? I mean, because obviously whatever's going on up in here indicates this. Either that or he's been smoking crack with Hunter.
Yeah,
Hopefully
Hunter
not
crack
taking
too.
the dildo along with him. And if he is, somebody please put out some pictures so we can just get rid of this old bastard. Quick. But I don't know, man. The fact that the media follows this guy around like actually a chance to beat Trump. I hope it is Biden that goes all the way because he is a gaffe factory, number one. And number two, as soon as he gets up on that debate stage with Trump, show's over for him.
Well, as you can see on the screen now, he wasn't done yet. I mean, this has been a busy gaffe week for Joe Biden this week. I don't even know what's going on here. But it's made its way around the
Hiding
internet.
from Biden.
I have nibbled on a girl's finger before.
You know what? This is the finger thing. This is the one thing I'm going to let slide. The reason being, that's his wife.
Yeah.
You can fuck around with your wife. I mean, if they have that kind of relationship where he could do stupid shit like that, that at least that tells me his home life is okay. When you can be goofy and do stupid shit like that. So this is the one thing I'll let Biden go on. I mean, as far as little kids rubbing his legs and how much he loves them jumping in his lap, that one, not so much. He's got to answer for that one. And he's got to answer for the quid pro quos and the extortion that he pulled on Ukraine and calling this other guy a fat fuck, which wasn't very nice, and challenging him to a competition. Like, that's not nice stuff. But the biting of the finger, I think that one we can let slide.
Well, I mean, I've done that in private with a girlfriend before, but I've never felt the need to do it in public. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that.
You know what? As you can see, my wife is my co-host. And you can ask her. I do goofy shit like that out in public all the time with her. I'll walk up behind her in the grocery store and just smack her on the ass just because I can. Hey, I signed the paperwork. Why not?
Well, the thing with the bus, the thing with the finger, the thing with the challenge is all coherent. This last clip that I have of Biden, I've watched it 6 times. I've had my girlfriend watch it. I've had other people watch it. Nobody can quite understand what he's trying to say here. So let's have a look at that.
Proudly for your dad, first African American state senator in the state of Delaware. Everything about. And by the way, you know, I sit on the stand and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach into the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch
I gotta
the
say,
hair.
the Democrats, they know how to move things around. I gotta give them credit for this because their last president, as crooked and everything as he was one of the most charismatic people in American history. Mm-hmm. He could carry a room. He could turn staunch conservatives into his favor. He was that good. They went from an icon like that to this.
He's not done yet.
Crazy, creepy Joe with his hairy legs who doesn't know how to stay clean and who likes to practice cannibalism with his wife and doesn't like fat people, apparently.
Well, he's not. This isn't the worst part of that speech here. He's not done.
Come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap.
Oh, my God.
And I've loved kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
How do you keep going after that?
Only as Joe Biden can. I guess it's the circuitry in the back of his neck that just helps him ignore the fact that he just completely fucked up. That's the only thing I can think of, bro. Jesus Christ. Oh my God, America in the 21st century. God help us.
Well, when I finish out this this section of the program here, I always ask 3 questions, but we're gonna look at what the polls look like quick before we go. So let me get that up here. So right now we're sitting at, according to RCP, and I took this right before we went on here, Biden is still at 28 on the national, but Buttigieg has moved up a little bit in Iowa coming up, which is going to be one of the Iowa, New Hampshire, the first couple states here. So, and Buttigieg is leading both of the first 2 states. It looks like Iowa, New Hampshire. Biden is across, or Nevada and South Carolina, obviously, because he's got more of the black support. And Vegas is still saying he's up 2.7% according to the betting odds. So, I don't know.
The betting odds are definitely probably the more likely route you want to look. Mm-hmm. As far as polls that are released by the press, you got to be careful of those. Go with the Vegas betting odds, because there are guys out there that'll make shit happen to make sure things go the way they need to go. Just look at the 1919 Chicago White. That alone should tell you everything you need to know. But as far as like Buttigieg, I mean, the real question is, who the hell is that? I mean, yeah, you could tell me, you can list off his resume to me, but again, who the hell is that? He might be a big fish in a small pond, but on the national scale, there's at least 50 million people out there asking, who the fuck is this guy? Same thing kind of falls with Swalwell. I mean, at least Elizabeth Warren, we know her because she's made herself like an imbecile more times than we can count. Cory Booker, they know him because he's one of the faces of the Me Too movement. Joe Biden, everybody knows Joe Biden because at one time between 1873 and now, 1 out of 6 kids were molested by Joe Biden. Kamala, they knew who she was because they probably got a blowjob from her back in 87 in an alley before she got into politics. But as far as like, especially these, I guess you can call them younger people because they're like little local and regionals looking to step into the national stage, and it's just not working. Mm-hmm. Beto O'Rourke tried it, and he failed miserably because his policy is retarded. On top of the fact that he has a, believe it or not, technically a longer arrest record than Charles Manson. Charles Manson was arrested twice in his life.
Yeah.
Fucking Beto O'Rourke has been arrested more times than Charles Manson.
I believe
and he's
that.
running for fucking president.
Well, I'm actually looking forward to this. I have been looking forward to this all week. The last thing I do when I finish out this segment is I always ask the guests 3 questions, and I have a feeling they're going to be much more opinionated this time than they usually are. So, first question, of course, on polling data based on what we've seen in the news this week and what we've seen as far as statistics. Who do you think is going to be the Democrat nominee come 2020 by the end of all of this?
Ooh. You see, the polling data, I don't go by that. It doesn't tell you anything. I consider all of that bullshit and just long-winded speculation. I would say just because their patterns are becoming so predictable and ridiculous now, it's either going to be Biden or Elizabeth Warren. I think more likely it's going to be Elizabeth Warren because she's actually able to go out and not make herself look like as much of a lunatic that Biden does, because she's not out there fighting with fat people and having people rub her legs. Mm-hmm. Although I could tell you a story about old Queef J. Strongbow, but that's another story.
Oh, that's right. You're in her state, aren't you?
What's that?
You're in her state, aren't you?
I'm in her fucking district, dude.
Warren? She's a statewide seat, so.
Yeah, well, we got 2.
Yeah. Oh, you split districts. That's right.
Yep. She's a real peach, that one. Peach that's been sitting on the floor for about 3 months, but she's a peach. I'm I'm guessing because the way the establishment works, they're going to go with their people. I mean, Bernie Sanders 3 years ago was not part of the establishment, and he just got completely stepped on in favor of the godmother.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I call old Kill Clinton. Swill and kill the Clintons, as I call them. So they completely stepped on the guy who I truly believe, if Trump got lucky, because if he won because they put Hillary in that spot.
I believe that.
I think if he would have went with Bernie Sanders with the momentum he had, if Trump didn't win, he would have won by a much smaller margin. Because just like Trump, Bernie had the people behind him. He had that momentum. He was going to be the guy. But Hillary pointed her finger because she owns the DNC and has for quite a while. She said, I'm taking the nomination. And as soon as she did that, she crashed the party.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're still sliding down the slope. She cannot and will not admit that the Democrats' woes are entirely 150% her fault. And she is the reason why Trump won, not Putin. Putin can go fuck himself for all I care. He's just a bald-headed guy who thinks he needs to fucking puff his chest out so he can be a tough guy. Our military and our arsenal is 500 times better than Russia. They have the landmass advantage and the cold weather where their soldiers are tougher than ours as far as environment and weather-wise. Mm-hmm. But all we got to do is send enough fucking missiles over there and turn Moscow into a parking lot, and that's the end of Russia. So they can pull this shit all they want. We know the real truth. Hillary is the death of the Democrat Party. Hillary Clinton. And if somebody out there is watching this right now, prove me wrong.
Well, I've got another question here going forward here. So, if Trump should stroke out on the campaign trail, you have to have one of the 15 people who are still currently in the running. We are down to 15 at this point, and that includes your former governor, by the way. He is officially in. Which one do you think is the lesser of 15 evils?
In terms of Republicans? Oh,
Democrats.
Oh, Democrats.
Yeah.
Shit. I guess Tulsi Gabbard.
That's a pretty standard answer on this show.
As a Democrat, you listen to her talk. I'll give her the distinct title of being the least fucked up. Andrew Yang, he's got his pragmatic and scientific approach. Andrew Yang's biggest problem is he wants to be Elon Musk. He's not Elon Musk. He never will be. I don't even think Elon Musk wants to be Elon Musk. But the point is, the shit that he's laid out, he's living in technocracy somewhere else on Neptune. Tulsi is the one who has, in some ways, stuck to some basic American principles. She could be full of shit, which I think more than likely she is, because she's ready to endorse Bernie, the communist.
She already has once.
Yeah. So, and I think if anything, she'd be looking to get on his. Because, I mean, who else is he going to have? Was he going to have, is he going to have Shitting Bull run with him, Elizabeth? Unless maybe he wants to go dig up the body of Stalin. That'd be the most suitable fucking one. Yeah, he can go dig up Stalin. Trump can go dig up Patton. Let's have a real fucking race. But
all right, so
I don't know. I'm just a Looney Tune, folks.
So last question that I always ask is no statistics, no policy prescriptions, just for the pure entertainment value of standing on that stage next to Trump and debating him. Who do you want to see be the nominee out of the 15 that remain, just for the entertainment value?
Joe Biden. Joe Biden, without a fucking question. Elizabeth Warren will be boring. Everybody else is already predictable. Like, if he gets up there with anybody else, you know he's them to shreds. Biden is going to be fucking fun. It's going to be hilarious. These are going to be the most entertaining presidential debates in American history. Trump is going to go up there and he is going to roast this motherfucker. And he's not even going to know it. That's the funny part, is Trump has the ability to rip you to shreds verbally, and you don't even realize it as he's doing it. He did that even in the debates with Hillary. She's standing there with the smile on her face. Maybe in her case, she's a little bit smart enough to pick up on it. But we all know Joe has the IQ of a fucking ashtray. So that's going to be really interesting to watch. It's like watching old Monday Night Raw from back in the 90s with the two guys with the mic in the ring, and I'm going to kick your ass. And that's why, man. It's going to be great.
All right, let's check back in with the live chat here. Brandon Sullivan had a laugh way back at the beginning of this segment. Uncle Sniffendiddle. April Hart, Trump is able to humanize himself because he's white. Yang is Asian. Disavow. Sorry. Brandon, they shoot themselves in the foot by making promises they can't keep. She doesn't have that support to secure that. Swalwell would have been on board with the nuke comment. That was good. Brandon Sullivan, she's going old-fashioned Native American, man. Keep up.
Yeah.
Jake says, Ed, your guest is making me eat salt and vinegar almonds like they are popcorn. And then brought up the hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun long before we brought that back up.
Oh, Jesus.
Brandon says he's a baby boomer. I don't think he's young enough to be a baby boomer. I think he is the generation before. The guy's face in the back says it all. What were we watching? Which video were we watching where the guy's face in the back? I don't know. Kayla's here, Big Cat. Kayla, Joe has boomer tard power you guys don't understand. I still don't think he's young enough to be a boomer. Or old enough. Yeah, young enough to be a boomer. Brandon Sullivan says maybe he volunteered to be Santa at the mall and his North Pole training kicked in. All right. Well, now we're on to the impeachment.
Oh, I got it.
So it is official at this point. Nancy Pelosi has gone forward and asked for the articles of impeachment to be on her desk. Now, the first story that we have out of this, of course, is that as soon as she asked that, the House Judiciary Committee brought in 4 law professors to sit down with them and discuss what the articles should be. So they have no idea what they're fucking impeaching for. They have nothing. No idea. So they have to bring somebody in to tell them. So
Yeah, and you notice how they brought in law professors? They didn't bring in actual lawyers.
yeah.
Here's what I think about professors, okay? You could say this about almost any profession. Those who can, do. Those who cannot, teach.
You know, when I went to mechanic school, they said a lot of the same thing. Almost verbatim.
It's true. It's absolutely true.
We didn't have a lot of faith in our teachers there.
Yeah, did you ever notice, like, some of the people that, like, and it doesn't just apply to law, it can apply to many other things. Like, just imagine how many of the instructors at, like, Juilliard, the theater school, just imagine how full of their own shit that they are. But you notice you don't see their names on any fucking marquees. That's why they're at Juilliard, because, again, those who can, do, and those who can't, teach.
I put out a thought experiment the other day when I was on Twitter asking, you know, exactly what statute they're trying to bring forward, because I don't think they even know. They
don't. They have nothing. They want to impeach Trump because he's an asshole. That is their grounds for impeachment, because Trump is a prick.
Oh, I thought
Trump
it was because he won when he
was
supposed
elected, and he admitted to it.
Yeah.
So
I thought,
you can't impeach the guy for that. They have no actual physical crime. Yet we have thousands of pages of documents of crimes committed by the establishment government, and not a fucking thing is done about it. Like that whole report that got released today. How much of that did you read?
I've actually been show prepping all day, so I've got it bookmarked. I'm going to do it after the show.
I skimmed through it a little bit, and this is what I take from it. All of these things happened that should not have happened and are illegal to happen. So our recommendation is to basically do a better job training guys on how things should be done. So they call this the Pfizer report. I call it the FUSA report. F-U-S-A, as in fuck you stupid assholes for thinking for 1 second we're actually going to police ourselves. Now sit down and shut up.
And you knew they weren't going to.
Of course not.
But I don't want any spoilers because I want to read it.
I've heard so many people over the last week, oh, this report's going to... The indictments are getting handed out. People in jail. Wars are going to start. Bullshit. We said the same thing 3 years ago when James Comey came out and read the whole email report. Remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hillary's going to jail for this one. Yeah. Where is she now? She's living off our tax dollars on her pension.
And Bill's pension.
Yeah. Swill and kill. And he's probably still got his supply of underage girls to do his bidding as well. Just because Epstein's gone, somebody had to take over the family business.
Well,
just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, the next thing that came up this week, of course, is that Trump has come out and said that he is not going to cooperate with any subpoenas that come to the White House, and he is urging anybody in the White House to do the same. Now, this has been the controversial one because I know the Big L Libertarian Party has come out and said that this is the absolute undeniable proof that he's guilty, and so have the Democrats. Like you had said, the MAGA side that says that he's the second coming of Christ thinks that this is what he's supposed to be doing, and he's going to win because he's doing this. As long as it's not legal that he has to do that, it's the same thing. You're innocent until proven guilty. So, and you have the right to remain silent. I would be doing the same thing as long as there was a law in place that would protect me from doing it. So.
Yep, they are trying to strip him of his right to due process. They think that they're just because that they sit in the position that they sit, that they can just throw traditional law out the window and do it their way. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work that way. And that's why what few people realize, Trump is doing something right now that nobody ever talks about, the conservative or the liberal side. He's doing that is actually a tremendous help to this country. The U.S., the judge appointments. And he's going to have another Supreme Court appointment coming up soon, as well as all the federal judges. I think he said there was like 187 open positions, and he was going to fill them all. And the instant he does that, that is actually what's going to restore the balance. Like, we're not going to go completely 100% conservative. That's what the liberal media wants you to believe, that Trump is going to all of a sudden become this fucking fascist dictator. And then all of a sudden gay and trans people and black people are all going to be rounded up and murdered. That's what they're trying to make you believe. And then you listen to the left where they're not going to fucking try to, well, maybe they are going to try to rig the election to try to steal it from him. But then they'll have you believe that they're going to round up white people, Christians, and Trump supporters and murder them. It's kind of, they're both projecting the same lie towards one another.
Yeah.
They're so busy fighting with each other that you got to stop listening to them and watch what's actually happening. Trump appointing those judges is going to essentially restore the balance. Because there are a lot of those are appointed for life, and they can't be taken away unless they're actually accused of committing a crime and forced to be removed, or a future president fires them from the position. Which they already, if you do fire someone, you're supposed to have somebody else lined up for it.
Right.
But that is one of the essential things that he's doing. And also what he's doing is he's making a spectacle out of everything intentionally. Because he wants the people to see the mechanics of how things really work within the halls of Congress. And he has shown a tremendous amount to us. More than people understand.
And, I mean, the corruption is deep in that, too. I mean, the next story that I had on the stack for this is the fact, going right down, he's showing us how everything works, because Schiff decided that he was going to release phone records that were not subpoenaed for several prominent figures. He released the phone records for Devin Nunes. Two of Trump's personal attorneys got their phone records released, including Giuliani. And then a Fox contributor, John Solomon, also, just out of nowhere, they dropped his phone records on this as well. This is illegal.
The whole Congress, first of all, I want to know on what grounds they got the warrant to obtain those phone records. What are the grounds?
I have no idea.
Number one, you can't just come out and be like, ha, we got this. You can't do that. You have to present the whys in the house. That's the way court is supposed to work. This has become like court on like watching Law and Order. This is dramatic court. It's not even real. This isn't what's supposed to happen in court. Court is a process. They're not following a process. They're just sitting there and pontificating and preaching and using C-SPAN as their platform to just take a shit on Trump is really all it's about. They know they don't have anything for him, but as long as they can keep this going for as long as they can. Unfortunately for them, the longer they keep it going, if it does backfire in the end and Trump wins, Trump is going to have every right to have these people all removed from office and charged with crimes. You can be charged with process crimes. You can be charged with malicious intent. And in terms of somebody like Adam Schiff, for what he's doing, I would charge him with high treason.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing. I mean, I could go off on another 2-hour show just on this, but I mean, I know they have access to the phone records based on the Patriot Act, which, for God's sakes, I cannot believe that they snuck into the budget to get re-signed. This it was a couple weeks ago that happened. That just made my blood boil when I saw that happen. But yeah, now he's got the access through the Patriot Act. He can throw that out there and just leak it out there, which is what they've been trying to do with this entire impeachment hearing. They've been trying to keep it under wraps and then just leak out whatever they can leak out to make everything look bad.
I mean, what more are they going to leak? Like, do you have an actual crime, or are you just sitting there exposing what these people do? Like, if they're not committing crimes, then what are you doing? Why are you wasting our time, our attention, and most of all, our tax money on this bullshit? This is costing us buku buckaroos to every time they have one of these hearings. Every time that skinny little fucking ferret sits in that chair that's 3 sizes too big for him. It looks like it's built more for Nadler than it is for him. And he sits there and with that fucking deranged look on his face, how he's trying to lay out this case to everybody. Like, he doesn't sound like he's running a judiciary committee. He sounds like he's running a fucking NPR talk show. That's what he's doing. And he's doing it directly from the chambers of Congress. If this is not an abuse of power and at the very least an indictable offense, then you know what? We might as well just pack it in and go home now. Because they're using our government halls that are supposed to be sacred and only for the purpose of legal progress. That's what the only thing they're supposed to be used for. He's using it as a forum to convince people to vote for his guy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, too. I mean, can we tie that to campaign finance violation at this point? We should.
Yeah. I would like to know if there's a lawyer out there that would be able to do something like that. But honestly, you got to put the media complicit with this because they're giving all this free press to these people. I mean, they gave, $3 billion of free press to Trump, not even realizing it?
Mm-hmm.
They gave more free press to him than they did to all the Democrat candidates. And now they're throwing everything into it. Like, they don't even hide the bias anymore. They're just straight up, we are against Trump and we're going to do whatever it takes.
Well, with that in mind, I think we do need to make a request. Jake, find us a lawyer, please.
Yes. I'm eventually going to need one myself doing this shit. We all know that's going to happen.
Well, and that's the thing, too. I mean, this is starting to wear down on the American people, so this could be the world's worst campaign ad if that's what they're trying to do is make this into a campaign ad. And going back onto the 2020 thing, I mean, even Yang has come out at this point and said that this impeachment is doing nothing but guaranteeing Trump his reelection, and the polling is starting to show that. Let's have a look at what we have here. So I pulled a picture from RCP of the polling data as we go back from the beginning of October on down to the, I think it was just last week was the last one. And I mean, you can see the gaps closing here between approval, disapproval for the impeachment and removal. And I mean, at some point, I think this is going to overtake if they keep dragging this out even further.
Yeah, the longer it goes, the more it's pissing off the people because the people are starting to realize they got nothing. At first, they were all in for it because they're thinking, oh, they've gone this far. They've made it to Congress. So they've got something. Now, how many sessions have we had so far? Like 7 or 8? 10 sessions?
Yeah.
What actual physical evidence have they presented that Donald Trump has type of demeanor?
You might want to repeat that.
They
when you
may
broke
not
up on
like
that.
his demeanor, but he didn't commit a misdemeanor.
Oh, yeah.
That's really all it boils down to. They've got nothing. And the people who are actually sitting and watching this, I mean, even leftists, you're not giving us anything. It's like we want to nail Trump bad, but you're not giving us shit. That's what's happening.
I don't know what's going to happen, honestly, either. And I'm seeing some of the other arguments here. You're watching the porn argument too, and we're starting to see some of the crack in the foundation of the Libertarian and GOP alliance. So that worries me a little bit. But I mean, if they keep going down this road and they don't put anybody else up, we're going to get another 4 years of Trump. There's no two ways about it. And right now, I don't see, other than a massive heart attack from eating too much McDonald's, another way forward. I don't see another option.
Allegedly, Trump got a clean bill of health from his doctor. I guess, what was it, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, he goes to the doctor, and all of a sudden, Trump hospitalized from mass.
Yeah.
Like, they got him on camera walking out of the hospital with no tie on because he just went to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the shit. It, massive chest pains. He had a heart attack. He's dead. That's what it's ridiculous. And the sad part is people still continue to pay for those subscriptions to read those tabloids. And that's all they are now. I give the National Enquirer more credit and credibility than the New York Times. Because at least the Enquirer is entertaining.
I liked reading the National Enquirer when I was young. No, Weekly World News was the one that I liked when I was younger.
Yeah, Weekly World News with Bat Boy and shit like that. The world's biggest baby. That was like 275 pounds and he was only a year and a half.
Yeah, that was a fun one. All right, let's see.
I give that shit more credence than I do half of what the Washington Post publishes. Everything they say about Trump is just a spun-up lie. And Fox News does the same thing. Like everything that Trump does, everything he touches turns to gold. No, it does not. And if he is negotiating a trade deal with China, for all the fucking big talk he did about it, better be a good one. And I have a feeling that it is a good one because the Democrats won't sign off on it.
Yeah, the same thing with the USMCA. They won't sign off on that one either. That's a good deal.
Exactly.
I've read it cover to cover.
They won't touch it. And that makes me wonder why. That's got to be a deal that's positive for us. Because anything that benefits us in the long term, they are vehemently opposed to. And they've proven it time and time again. They would rather take care of the rest of the world than their own people and their own community that votes them into their seats and goes and fights their illegal wars for them. And then after they come home hurt or permanently damaged, they can't even get decent medical care for it. I've been saying that if you are a combat veteran who was wounded, you should receive premium medical coverage for the rest of your life. As long as you present your veteran card that proves that you were in a battle that caused you to get wounded for the United States of America, any medical coverage that you need for the rest of your life is covered just like that. You don't even have to fill out paperwork. Just go in and get it. Mm-hmm. And the only reason why you'd have to make out some paperwork is just so they can keep a record of how you're doing. Absolutely. That's how I feel about it.
All right. Let's check back with the live chat here. Jake from Freedom Scoop took Brandon's comment a little bit further. At least it's not Kamala Harris's North Pole training. Heyo. Jake knows what's up. And then Jake also says that he will work on getting us a lawyer to look into this campaign finance violation. So look for that. That's
awesome.
That's an interesting idea.
And he also says Purple Heart Care. I agree with that 100%.
Oh,
if you earned a Purple Heart for this country,
it is.
you earned free health care for the rest of your life. I'm sorry, but you did. I don't care what anybody says. If anybody fights me on this, what is wrong with you? That person took the ultimate risk. Willing to sacrifice their own life simply for something they believe in. And they believe in the United States of America and willing to fight for it. You think the United States of America is willing to fight for them? That's the question. And I'm not saying people shouldn't join the military because at least Trump has taken some steps to fix the problem. Some. There's a long way to go. The VA is still flawed. Mm-hmm. But at least now, giving those veterans the opportunity to see a private doctor and still be covered by the government, that's a huge win for veterans.
Absolutely.
That's at least a step in the right direction. Name one thing Democrat policy has stepped us in the right direction. I'll give you one. One thing that they've done in my lifetime that I can absolutely agree with was when the Supreme Court declared that same-sex marriage is legal and constitutional because it falls under life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I agree with that 100%. I don't agree with churches being forced to perform the ceremonies because now you're denying their pursuit of happiness, their First Amendment rights. We all need to respect each other. That's the moral of the story. Problem is, great majority of us have forgotten how to do that because they've been so lazy and entitled and spoiled beyond belief. That's the state of affairs that we're in because it's like, gimme, 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 and fuck you.
That's actually the best argument I've ever heard for the federal right to gay marriage, because I've always been a, do it at the state level kind of thing and let the states decide. That's a good argument. I like that argument.
You have to, in order for something like that, you got to start it at the federal level where they declare it constitutional. Mm-hmm. And then bring it to the states. If states want to have it and they vote for it, cool. I got no problem with that. If there are other states out there that don't want it, I'm fine with that too. Maybe someday they'll vote on it again and change their mind, but you know what? It is what it is. Leave those people be. If Arkansas decides they don't want same-sex marriage, go get married in California instead. I live in a state of Massachusetts. Right near us is the state of Vermont. You can go up there. Massachusetts recognizes it too. So does Rhode Island. Connecticut now recognizes it. New York recognizes if you identify yourself as an outer space alien, for Christ's sake. They will fucking recognize anything you want them to because they're so weak and liberal and douchey that you can call yourself a fucking pony and list that as your gender on a job application. Pony. And that's legal. So I think the same-sex marriage thing is reasonable. The pride parades, I have serious issues with those.
Yeah.
Only because there are children at those events. If it was a private, adults-only event in a private place, I got no problem with it. But when you got little kids there, when I see an 8-year-old girl twerking, I got a little problem with that. Don't sexualize kids, gay or straight. They don't need it. They're going to have the rest of their lives to have all that complicated shit to deal with. For now, let them just be kids. Let them go play fucking softball and video games and Pokemon and whatever bullshit they fucking play with nowadays. Just let their lives be simple. The more you complicate it and the more you screw with people, the worse things become overall. And I've always said the biggest problem that rich white liberals have in this country is they can't stay out of other people's business. They have to stick their nose in fucking everything because they live with this narcissistic delusion that they are the fucking moral beacon of all that is good and righteous, and only their way and their help will fucking save the entire world from all of its blight. The only problem is every time they stick their nose in something, they fuck it up more. And they refuse to take responsibility for it. They just keep pushing harder and harder and making it worse and worse. And that's part of why we're in the situation now that we're in, because we are right now, the Second American Civil War has already begun. It began the day Trump was elected president because that was the day conservative America finally pushed back on liberal America after 30 years of castration. And that's where we're at. And the way things are going right now, the conservative side, the pro-America side, I guess you could say, is going to be the most likely winner. It's either because that the other side, they're sabotaging, or B, maybe the numbers are just a hell of a lot bigger than the media and the propaganda machine would allow you to think. And I think maybe it's a little bit of both.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to take a look at this shooting that happened, these couple shootings that happened this past week. I know you talked about them a little bit on your shows this past week. First one happened at Pearl Harbor. It was right before Remembrance Day, actually, where a 22-year-old sailor opened fire in a closed area. He killed 2 and he wounded a third. I'm not going to be naming either of these shooters right now. You had mentioned on your show that you were waiting to see if this popped up in the news, and I don't believe that it did because it didn't really have any sort of political undertone. it was just a guy that was kind of getting pushed around by the people that outranked him and maybe some other people in his class who just finally snapped, essentially. He was kind of bullied, and that doesn't really fit the narrative. But what have you seen on this since you mentioned it on your show?
I have seen very, very little of it, and I have tried to actively look for it. I mean, you just get the same basics from it. I already know what the problem is. And I'm actually very surprised the left didn't jump on this, thinking shouting for more gun control like they do for every fucking thing else. Here's the reason why they didn't. This guy was obviously, he snapped. He lost a couple of marbles up in his brain. It had to have happened. If anybody's ever seen the movie Full Metal Jacket, have you ever seen that?
I have not.
You need to, just the first half of the movie. That's the half that I'm talking about. Basic training.
Okay.
And there's a scene in there, the last night at basic, before they get shipped off to Vietnam. There was this one kid in their platoon, and the drill instructor, R. Lee Ermey, you know who. This was the role that made him famous. He played the drill instructor, and he rode this one kid to no end, and he called him Gomer Pyle. He fucking tortured him left and right. He was just a fat, dumpy kid. Vincent D'Onofrio played him.
Okay.
And eventually it got to the point where he fucked up so bad where he was punishing, the instructor was punishing the entire platoon. So they had enough. One night they did, and this is all shit that really does happen. There's always a fuck up in a platoon. You can guarantee that one night while they're all sleeping, or at least you think they're sleeping, the fuck up is in bed. They each, 4 guys, take 2 blankets and tie them down with the blankets. Then the rest of the platoon comes along with a bar of soap inside of a sock, and they beat the fuck out of him with that shit. Just enough to hurt the guy and give him a message, not enough to leave physical bruising and scars or to do any serious damage to him, but enough to make a message. And for some guys, they break when shit like that happens. And this guy definitely broke. And you actually saw him start to make vast improvements. But then we get to the last night on the island where he's sitting in the bathroom all alone with a loaded assault rifle. And he starts yelling and ranting and raving. The instructor comes in, asks him, "What the fuck is your problem? What are you doing?" Kills the instructor. Then sits down, puts the gun in his mouth, kills himself. Most people don't realize the suicide rate in the military. Because in order to be able to fight in the military, you have to go through the most extreme physical as well as psychological torture that you can possibly take without doing any like actual permanent damage, without doing any actual real torture. Because that's what it takes to survive in war. And there are so many people out there that sign up for this thing thinking, oh yeah, I'm just going to go do a bunch of push-ups and then I'm going to go to fucking college shortly afterwards.
Right.
No, ladies and gentlemen, this is the military. There's a reason why the U.S. military is the best of the best. Because we crucify our new recruits as much as we legally and possibly can without causing them any real permanent damage. Unfortunately for some, they don't recover from it. And the suicide rate amongst fucking recruits in basic training is astronomical. But they won't tell you that. They'll never tell you that. No side will tell you that.
Right.
And not to mention the amount of injuries, because they have to do this to you. It's not because they're terrible people. It's because they need to. It's the only way you're going to survive in the harshest and cruelest world. Because if we ever got invaded by a group like ISIS, what do you think? They're just going to come in and we're going to sit and we're going to negotiate terms? No. They're going to kick your door down. They're going to rape your wife and daughter right in front of you and kill you as you're watching it happen. And in order to be able to survive and endure something like that, you have to be crucified in such ways. It's a grim way to look at things, but it is, unfortunately, is one of those necessary that we have no choice but to be good at. Because if we're not good at it, then we're dead.
True enough. We've got another shooting here that happened just shortly afterwards, and I've not been able to figure out how this guy got in with a gun. But according to records, in Pensacola, Florida, at the Air Force Base, or Naval Base rather, I'm sorry, not Air Force Base, the Naval Air Base is what it was, a Saudi lieutenant who, I don't know if he was doing training there or whatnot, but he's from the Saudi Royal Air Army. Opened fire in a classroom, and the FBI is still searching for a motive out of this. I believe he has been detained and is being questioned, along with 6 of the other Saudis who are being detained for the investigation. But it was found that he posted a short anti-American manifesto to Twitter before he went and started doing this. So, have you found how he actually got in with this? Because, I mean, only the MPs are supposed to have guns on site.
Nope, no idea. I can assure you of one thing, though. You're not sneaking it in.
No, absolutely not.
So the only way I could think of, you got some help. I'd like to know who it was. And they better, if they have at least a halfway decent investigation team, they better get on. Because who knows how many other military installations that could happen in. And by the way, Saudi Arabia better take very, very good notice of this. Because last time I checked, that is an act of war.
Yeah, absolutely is.
That is fucking Saudi Arabia opening fire on the United States. I don't care if it's one guy or a battalion of tanks. You're opening fire. Some type of restitution needs to be made, and it needs to be made now. They can either... They need to do something. That's all I know.
Yeah, because they're allied with us right now.
They're supposed to be. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them.
Fair point.
And just imagine, keep in mind what they're hiding in their land.
What's up?
That it has actually been proven that the real Mount Sinai is in Saudi Arabia.
Oh.
Guys found it. I watched the documentary. They traced, if you read the book of Exodus, the actual trail that Moses and the Hebrews followed. This guy followed that trail. All the landmarks described in the Bible come up perfectly. And they found Mount Sinai with the black spot on the top of it, as in the top of the mountain was burned. It's in Saudi Arabia. And that area, that entire, like, probably 200 square mile area is all fenced off and heavily guarded by armed military. And they will open fire on you on spot if you're seen.
Holy shit, it is.
Yeah. They will shoot on sight.
I'm just going back through the Exodus story. Yeah, everything there that's in the book would make sense.
Yeah. These guys actually videotaped and documented the trip, and they showed it. And you actually get to see Mount Sinai right there with the top of the mountain burned. Just exactly described in the Bible.
That's interesting. That adds a whole twist to things, especially with the Alliance.
Now, we can, you can throw the whole faith aspect out of it. Why are they hiding this land? What's there? What do they got there?
No idea.
What is significant about that where they have to have heavily armed to the teeth military guarding this with tanks and Humvees and automatic weapons? It's just a religious site. What are they guarding? What are they hiding? And why is the public not made aware of this information?
I don't know. This is the first time hearing about it, so...
Exactly. I did years of research on this, and I just across these guys' documentary. And either A, this is some real good shit, or B, they are really good at faking this stuff and bullshitting me. But it looked real good. And it looked as though that Saudi Arabia is hiding the true Holy Land. It's not in Israel.
That changes the whole dynamic of Middle Eastern warfare and pretty much everything else
Why
that
is
goes along
Saudi
there.
Arabia so heavily protected, and why is the United States allied with them? And they practice Sharia law, and they're ruled by like despotic kings. They're ruled by ruthless royalty. Why did even Obama go over there and bow to the king of Saudi Arabia? What do they have? That's the question. And I think it's a hell of a lot more. I know they got oil, but I think it's a hell of a lot more than that. Something we need to consider. I think they may have gold in those hills. Like trillions of dollars worth of gold. Just untapped reserves.
Well, that gave me something to research after this program, that's for sure.
Yeah, for all you out there watching, at least don't just take my word for it. I don't want. Do the research. Find it yourself. It's out there. It is definitely out there. I found it myself. It took me a long time, but I found it. And a really great place if you want to watch documentaries, stuff like that. Believe it or not, Amazon. Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I do watch some documentaries on there. That is a good place to watch them.
Yep, one of the few places where you can still catch all of Alex Jones's. They still have all of his up. For all the evil that Amazon does, they're still allowing this stuff to exist. They haven't gone the YouTube and Facebook route where they just banned everything. So, catch it while you can, ladies and gentlemen, because we're running out of time. And that's no joke.
I got one message in the chat here. Brandon Sullivan says, I'm going to be honest, it's not hard to get a gun past a guard duty if you really wanted to. So, I still say you probably had somebody on the inside, though.
Brandon, it's not easy. On a military installation, there are cameras everywhere. They can see every fucking little thing you do. I'm surprised they don't piss. That's how bad it is. They are not playing around. Especially after the incidents they've already had, like at Fort Hood 10 years ago.
Yeah.
They're not playing around anymore. That's part of why they disarmed the military installations, because there was a lot of shootings happening in the 90s that were never reported to the public. Shootings on bases and training installations. It happens because some minds just can't handle the stress of the military and they break. And it happens, and it's an unfortunate thing. And you can't hate those people for doing what they did. All you can do is feel sorry for them and hope that if they didn't do any serious damage, they can get the help that they need. But they need to be returned to regular society and given the help they need. They can't continue in the military. And reporting on every single little incident like that happens is just going to make us look like a tribe of barbarians, which we're not. But we kind of need to be, I guess would be the best way I could explain it.
All right. Let's move on to this stupid-ass food stamp story, which doesn't really deserve a place in the program, but we got to talk about it. So, the Trump administration now has decided that they're going to roll out a new proposal on qualifications for food stamps. Now, these rules are only set to affect people who are 18 to 49 years old, who are in good health, who have absolutely no dependents. Recipients can also qualify for food stamps or an extension on that by participating in a minimum of 20 hours per week of work training. And the Democrats went nuts.
Of course they did. Because they're running on the entire platform freebie. They want their people lazy and stupid and ignorant. That's how they want you. That's how they need you to be, because if you really knew what they were doing, they'd be out of a job. DNC wouldn't exist anymore. And that's already starting to happen because Trump is pulling those little pieces of fucking string out of that fabric, and it's just beginning to unravel. But as far as Trump proposing this, what the hell is wrong with that? If you're 18 to 49 years old and you don't have kids, what the fuck are you doing on government assistance?
You gotta eat, man.
Unless you have some kind of developmental or physical disability. If you're 18 to 49, you're not married, you have no kids, what are you doing with yourself? What the fuck is wrong with you? That's the golden question. This is the land of opportunity. This is one of the few places in the world where you can do and be whatever you want to be, as long as what you're doing is not a crime. Obviously, you can't be an assassin because murder is illegal. You want to be a rock star, you can be a musician. You're allowed to study music. You want to be a painter, you're allowed to study art. You're allowed to pursue these things. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Mm-hmm. These motherfuckers want to guarantee you the happiness. Doesn't work that way. And the more you try to push it, the more miserable you're going to make everybody in the long term. The pursuit is what matters the most, because the pursuit is what will get you the happiness. And it even took me a long time to realize that personally. Because I was the kind of person where I wanted it and I wanted it because that's the way I was programmed to be. But in time, I realized that's not how it works. So I put my big boy pants on. I grew up, and here I am today as an actual adult. And I still fall within that age category. And you know what? You could take the food stamps and the cash assistance and all of that, and you could stick it in your ass. I don't want none of it. I'll go out. I would rather starve to death than to ever accept help like that from somebody else ever again. I will take homelessness and starvation. I'll rob a motherfucker before I'll go fucking get on food stamps. And I'll make sure whoever I rob is a white, rich, liberal douche. Because they'll have money.
Well, the Democrats came out and slammed this. And actually, they started bringing out anecdotal evidence when they started talking about it because... And this is where I told you to pay attention to this and the fact that Boston University is a private school and she has an economics degree from there. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez claims that her family would have starved under all of this when her father died because they wouldn't have been able to eat. Now, I looked back into... I heard somebody mention it and then I went back and double-checked it. When her father died, she was away at Boston University and 19 years old.
So she couldn't go get a job?
Yeah, exactly. Plus, she's at one of the more expensive schools in Massachusetts.
Yeah, with little tiny Tim who needs his leg operation. Get the fuck out of here. She is, oh my God. She, like I say, she is so full of shit. I can smell it through my TV screen. Like, how dare you even say so? As like Greta would say, how dare you to say something like that?
Yeah.
Where do you get your balls? You worthless little child. Oh, because you wouldn't have been able to devote 100% of your time to studies. It would have had to go down to about 85% because you'd probably have to go work at a Starbucks to be able to have some pocket money. Boo the fuck who. You poor, you stuck up precious little bitch. Let me tell you something. There are people in this world that have had it a hell of a lot worse than you and made it a hell of a lot better than you.
Well,
so stick your sob story in your ass.
That's the thing, too. I mean... She's going to... How much does BU cost at this point? It's got to be in the 5 figures, 6 figures. Well, not 6 figures, but... was it like
figures.
30 grand a year or something like that? Something ridiculous amount like that?
Oh,
Can
God.
you go to a state school if your family's going to starve?
Or 80 a year.
Really, that much?
Yeah, dude. BU is... And they have great sports programs and everything else, too, which adds value to the university.
Yeah, I pay attention to them every year during March Madness, so I can see that.
One of the best. They used to have one of the best hockey teams. The last few years, not so much, but they were one of the best at one time.
I know my ex's brother went to BC, which I don't know if that's as expensive or not, but...
No, that's state. That's a state university or state college.
Well, yeah, I didn't... That's the reason I asked before, too, is because I didn't know if both of them were private, both of them were state, or what the deal was on any of that.
Yeah.
And the last note, because you brought up Tiny Tim, I do want to take one last notation that I got from when I was reading this story, and that is the fact that the opponents of this administrative achievement are demonizing this because Trump is doing this during the holiday season and throwing people out during the holiday season. But this is actually not scheduled to take effect until, I believe, May of next year. So, it's just a talking point at that point.
Yeah, it's just... What else? That's all I can think of, you know? I mean... I'm at a loss for words, to be honest. I lost my train of thought. We got a big fight coming up ahead of us. And I think after the election next year, it's only going to get worse, no matter who wins. And as far as this taking effect, we'll see. Just got to watch.
Well, this is at a federal level, too. From what I understood, I thought that food stamps, anything like that, this may also be for the federal assistance for it, but I thought that was supposed to be a state-run program, not a federal program.
They're administered.
The Department of Agriculture
monitored
has a
by
hand
each
in it.
individual state, but they're federally funded.
Okay.
Which I think is a big no-no. Let the states fund it.
Absolutely.
You're getting paid by the state, yet the money trickles down from the Fed. If the Fed cuts off the state, let's see how bad that state wants to hang on to those programs.
It's just an
Just my
overreach by the
opinion.
federal government anyway. I mean, it's supposed to be interstate commerce. That is all it's supposed to be. And when I say interstate commerce, I'm not talking about taking the money away from Idaho and putting it into California's failing infrastructure. I'm talking about actual business between the states.
Right. Yeah. The federal government is supposed to have three. They are supposed to allocate and finance a military. They are to negotiate trade deals like federalized trade other countries. And lastly, they're supposed to arbitrate disputes between states.
Yeah.
The fact that the federal government seems to pass unilateral law that affects everybody, that's not right. Because, quite frankly, we're no longer the United States of America.
Yeah, it's
We're just one big state with a bunch of fancy lines and a bunch of different license plates. That's really all we are. I don't like that. I like local culture. I like the fact that I'm originally from the state of Rhode Island. And most people you talk to, they don't even realize that that's a state. Oh, is that part of New York? Oh, I know that. That's in Connecticut, huh? That's what I get.
You know that the state of Rhode Island is actually smaller than the county that I grew up in?
Yes. I believe it. I believe it. The state of Rhode Island is only about... It's so friggin' tiny.
Yeah. But if you take out Maine, all of New England is actually smaller than Wisconsin, too, so...
Yeah, Maine is a huge state with a whole lot of nothing in it.
It is.
Wide open spaces. It's a good thing, though.
Yeah, no, I like it. I had a roommate from Maine. He was a good guy.
Yeah, I noticed they never go up to Maine and talk about climate change. I'll tell you why, because it snows 10 months a fucking year up there. Their climate don't change. Only in places like New York and everything, where you have tens of millions of people living and everybody has to own a car. So, yeah, you're going to have a little bit of smog in the air. If you really want to, if that little psychopath there, Greta, she wants to make a real impact on the world, I want her to go over and start yelling in Beijing all the shit that she tries to claim over here. Go tell the Chinese, how dare you? You've stolen my childhood. Go on over there and do that. Because we run one of the cleanest places in the world compared to everybody else. China and India. I mean, you need a tetanus shot just breathing there.
Even the worst, dirtiest part of the Bronx is cleaner than anywhere in India.
Yeah. Probably cleaner than the Royal Palace.
Yeah. So, no, I get exactly what you're saying. And, I mean, the dirtiest, shittiest part of San Francisco probably beats better neighbors. I don't think it's the best place in China, but definitely upscale neighborhoods in China.
Yeah. Even I've seen some of the nice neighborhoods. It still reminds me of, like, it looks like the slums in Hong Kong. There are very few people that own nice, like, big, nice houses in China. Very few. It's all because they're so overpopulated. And when you have that many people crammed into small places, and yet there are so many parts of China that are not inhabited by anybody because they're uninhabitable. They could never be inhabited by humans. At least not civilized humans. But when you have that many people crammed into one place and you have 50 different factories churning out all of our products, that's where all our products are made. I love how they claim this. It's all a big lie cycle that they try to pull. They blame us for all the climate change, yet all the manufacturing is now done in China. They're the ones shooting all the black shit up in the sky, and yet we're getting blamed for it because we buy the products. Well, we would still be manufacturing the products and have it a little bit more spread out, but instead you had to go chase all those companies over to China, why they were there, and they have basically 9-year-old slave labor working for 4 cents a day. Not a bad deal. If I was a multi-billion businessman and America gave me those options, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to take option B. Why wouldn't you? What logical human being? Oh yeah, I need to forego all the profits of my company because it's the good liberal thing to do. Are you fucking kidding me? How many of you liberal douchebags even realize out there the big corporations that donate to these dummy politicians that you sit there and you drink their Kool-Aid? Those same companies, we're going to fight for you. Yeah, they're going to fight the same companies that are financing and bankrolling their entire existence. Let me know how that works out. I'm going to stay over here in the real world.
Well, that goes back to Warren too, because I mean, she comes out and says, "Well, I'm this great grassroots candidate, and I'm not taking any corporate money." Well, all of her corporate money came while she was running for a Senate in a race that she didn't have to run against. She didn't have to advertise there. A Democrat in Massachusetts.
Yeah, really.
She had it in there, so she just saved up all the money for the race, and now she's using it to bankroll her presidential campaign. And like Shapiro likes to say, well, no, she's doing this, but then she's telling all these people, okay, I'm going to insult you while I'm on the campaign trail, but we know what happened here, and we know I'm actually using your money. You can't do anything while I'm on the presidential campaign trail because I'm grassroots. It's hard to breathe when I'm trying to do a Ben Shapiro impression.
Yeah, it's a hell of a scam. They figured out a whole bunch of different ways to rob us blind, walk into office on a middle class lifestyle, leave a multimillionaire, and they're in the goddamn thing we can do about it. It's genius, if you ask me. I think it's brilliant.
It is.
And be able to leave a multimillionaire. That'd be fantastic. Fuck it. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to go into the direct routes of corruption that these people use, but if it's perfectly legal to go in there and better yourself and improve your own personal life standing, why not? But here's the problem. It's not legal to do that. It's wrong to do that. But they're all doing it. And we still, the idiots that we are, we keep sucking on the tit and we keep voting for these clowns. And then we call in our favorite radio stations and then complain about it. You dumb fucks, you voted for them. Try voting in the guy with the big long fishing boot on his head. I'll at least give that guy's foreign policy a listen before I'll even I'll even give Hillary Clinton my vote. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, right? Vermin Supreme?
Yes.
You've seen that guy, right?
I have.
Yeah. I would at least hear out his foreign policy before I would cast my vote for Hillary Clinton. Or any other Democrat, for that matter.
All right. I'm going to check with the live chat for the last time for the night here, and then we're going to run through the outro. John says, Brandon is a former Marine. He would know. Brandon says, I'm not saying you can just walk on one with a gun. Every base I went to on U.S. soil, you can get past obstacles if you really wanted to. Actually, the biggest base, I'm guessing, I went to, you were supposed to check in weapons at the armory. One Marine I know had a personal AR in his trunk the whole time. That's comforting. John says, got to go get ready for my show. See you guys. I'll probably be over there a little bit later. Brandon says, why'd you do a southern accent for that, RRC? We aren't all idiots down in the south.
Well, I do have an answer for that. I lived for a while, and I did work with a couple of yahoos. And listen, I got no problem with Southern people. I know plenty of Southern people, but these two guys were definitely fucking ninth generation inbred. I mean, you could see a leg sticking out of a guy's head. He was so fucking bred. It's like straight out of The Hills Have Eyes. But the first thing they would say is like, oh, man. Well, the guy with them, they have a combined 4 teeth. Yeah, I worked with them on a landscaping crew when I first got down there. Rhode Island. They're like, Rhode Island? I ain't never heard of that. Is that in New York? No, it's a state. It's a state? Where? In America. Where the fuck do you think? What do you think? I'm talking about fucking Mars? It's like, oh, well, where is it? It's between Massachusetts and Connecticut. Oh, so it's part of Massachusetts. No, you idiot. It is a separate state. Huh? And that's what I get. Then I met other people down there that knew my state than I did. It was fucked up. It was crazy.
Well, the last thing we try to do on this show, even though we had a pretty positive show out of this one, we always try to leave on a positive note. So tell me about a hobby that you have that has nothing to do with work or politics. It could be an album that you like to listen to, a video game you've been playing, just something that helps you unwind when you're not talking about the State of the Union or going to work.
I do dabble in video games, and for the longest time, I was a huge wrestling fan, like to the point where I studied it And I originally, when I was going to start a YouTube channel several years ago, was going to be devoted to wrestling and stuff like that. But as I've, especially over the last few years, as I've watched it on TV, I've realized how much it fucking sucks now. So I don't even bother with that anymore. I do dabble with some video games still. Like one of my favorite games is NHL, the EA Sports. I've always loved hockey. So I play that a lot. Lately, I've been playing a little bit of Skyrim just because I just love that game and going back to it every once in a while, especially now. You can put mods into it, so that makes it more fun. And especially when I go in and I just like blow up a whole town in like 5 seconds. That's great. And when I'm not doing this, I'm usually spending time with my kid. We end up having gun battles all through my house, or he likes to play Fortnite, and I'll just let him kick the shit out of me with that. And my wife and I, we like to maybe have a little date night every once in a while, which is few and far between, but we try, and that's pretty much me in a nutshell. For the most part, I'm pretty boring. I used to play a guitar when I was younger, but I always sucked balls, so I gave that up a while ago.
Hey, I just retuned mine.
What do you got?
Actually, I bought it from a kid over in your neck of the woods. Just Vantage Avenger, just something cheap, but it's fun to play.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those around.
He was in a punk band, so it's covered in stickers and everything.
Oh, yeah, that's the way they gotta be. I used to have a nice Les Paul back in the day. I love that fucking thing. I wish I still had it. I would just hang it on the wall just because I loved it. And mine is special because I'm left-handed.
Oh.
So buying a guitar for me is like trying to find teeth in a chicken. Oh, dude, to get a good quality one, because one time somebody actually had, it was like a 79 Gibson left-handed Flying V.
Ooh.
Dude, this thing is gold. Like he asked $3,000 for it, and I went to his house to take a look at it. The whole back of it is like chewed and destroyed. Like right there, it's like I'd give you $1,500. That's all it's worth because I have to have this thing restored. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, there was like literally gouges in it where it would affect the sound. That's how